a seizure, and got out of bed, and I called 911 and went around my side of the bed.
This morning, we're giving a voice to victims with a focus on Marcy West, whose husband is standing trial accused of her murder. Prosecutors say that Kevin West strangled Marcy to death to avoid paying for a divorce. But Kevin's attorneys claim that Marcy died from complications after an intense massage by this man, the defendant's son, Ted, who took the stand as a defense witness and demonstrated the massage.
Usually I start at the shoulders, and I use my thumbs, kind of pressing in with the front fingers and back. And then sometimes I go to the side and kind of do some circles on the side. Sometimes I be kind of doing circles on both sides of the spine. And this could be with fingers, knuckles, or it could be with my elbow.
All right, so that was the demonstration. Do you believe what the defense is saying? Do you believe that it was an intense massage the night before that led to a seizure, that led to a death on the day that her husband was going to leave her? The day he was supposedly coming with the divorce papers to leave her to go be with his mistress? What do you think? Let's bring in someone with a lot of case investigating experience. He's retired now, Lieutenant Mike Gould with us. Good morning, Lieutenant. What say you about these stories that are just miles apart about how Marcy West died?
Yeah, as the saying goes, what a tangled web we weave when we practice to deceive. So in this case, truthfully, I thought the strangulation was a little odd, considering this guy's a paramedic. He had known about his desire to leave this marriage. So I thought he would have come up with something more, a little bit more sinister, perhaps poisoning or something else, an accident, staging an accident. So manual asphyxiation or strangulation is violent, and it usually, for a conscious person anyway, the crime scene usually will show a lot of disruption at the crime scene. So the question, of course, is this defense witness who gives his mother the massage, is that going to be consistent with the MEs, and it's going to be a battle of experts here? Of course, there's a lot of other circumstantial evidence, but so I always found this a little interesting, that this is how this guy who seems very rational, it wasn't an extreme emotional disturbance. He didn't come in and say he found his wife in bed, he freaked out, and he just killed her. So I don't know. I think, why didn't he suffocate her? I mean, not to be too graphic, but there's other ways than strangling somebody in the middle of the night.
That's a great point, Lieutenant. Hadn't thought about that, because when you're dealing with something sinister like this, to your point, when you have somebody who is trained, to a degree in the area of medicine and first responding as a firefighter, that he might have thought of another method if he was seeking to kill her. So that's a fair point. And to your other point, which is an excellent one, this is really going to come down to which expert the jury believes. I have a clip from the state's expert who is saying that there's no way a massage caused this. Let's take a look.
The location of the contusion is, part of it is over a bony prominence, which is not a focus of a tissue massage. If there is slow continual pressure of the tissue sufficient to cause bleeding in the muscles, I would expect there to be injury to the skin surface.
Lieutenant, what'd you think of that?
Truthfully, I don't find it very powerful. As I said, strangulation of a human being it requires a lot of strength, and people flail. And if they're conscious, if she was unconscious when he did it, maybe that's a different story. So that's not powerful to me. And then we're going to hear what the defense has to say. But yeah, it's certainly to me not the smoking gun. It's all this stuff adds up to nefarious behavior. Of course it does. But if this is it, I don't know, Julie. Again, if he is guilty, as I said, we have devolved as a society and humanity to the point where murder a loved one or a spouse is better than it's easier and less complex than getting a divorce. So all of these cases that we're looking at these days involving these spouse homicides, murders, greed, lust, envy, jealousy are all played in almost all of them. And it's really scary, right? In the animal kingdom, this behavior doesn't exist. So it's really disturbing to me how we've devolved, as I said, to just, okay, we want to get out of a bad marriage. Divorce is as common as Botox these days, getting Botox. So I don't understand what the problem is that an intelligent person is think that they're not going to get caught.
Right. I think you said something that many of our wonderful viewers at home watching right now with their coffee are thinking, Lieutenant, how the 3 trials that we happen to be broadcasting right now, the 3, biggest, all involve alleged money motivation, where money, was at stake. And so a homicide would be an easier way to deal with things. And I'm speaking very generally, but the cases, the au pair trial, the mansion murders trial, and then the cheating fire chief trial, all, to your point, have very similar allegations going on that revolve around this. I love hearing your perspective, Lieutenant, because I think that, we can watch that clip and look, you've been to crime scenes. I don't know how many folks watching right now have ever seen one. I hope for everybody watching, you've never had to look at one or look at photos of one. It's an awful thing to get out of your brain. But as you said, you would imagine this to be very violent and to look very violent. She was strangled. So that is favorable for Kevin West, and the fact that his son is on his side, very clearly on his side, giving this testimony. I have a clip from his mom. Let's take a listen to some of what Mom had to say about his relationship with his mistress.
I believe Kevin and Marcy loved each other. I think they grew out of being in love.
It wasn't always like that, though. Like in the early days, was it better than that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. When, and did you see a change at some point in their relationship?
After they had kids.
Okay, so Mom knew about the affair with the woman who's now his fiance. So, Lieutenant, are you thinking this jury could walk away believing that it's an awful coincidence that he was going to leave his wife and go be with the mistress, and she suddenly died on this day that he intended to depart?
Yeah, so Julie, I'm not suggesting he's innocent, but beyond a reasonable doubt, it's one juror that has to kind of relate in some manner. And these, again, text messages and affairs and all of these things, again, I think that it's got to be obviously beyond a reasonable doubt. He has a presumption of innocence. But again, it's just a weird case in general. And I don't understand how in this day and age, if you think about the cases you're covering, very rarely are they not solved through digital evidence, surveillance cameras. It's not like just a random accidental homicide in the middle of the woods or mountains. Nobody gets away with these things, or rarely do they. 20 years ago, these diabolical schemes, probably he would have walked from these things, but there's just too much evidence. Digital footprints, breadcrumbs pointing. He's texting his mother, he's a 50-year-old man texting his mother about kind of like these intimate relationships with I don't know that. I don't recall me doing that when I was 50 years old. I couldn't do it because there was no text messaging, but I don't think I would be sharing those things with my mother.
No, no. And Lieutenant, last question for you here. Seeing the son come in, and who's raised by Marcy and Kevin West. Marcy's the victim here. She's deceased. However, she died if this was just, suddenly her life was taken away, because of these natural issues that occurred in her body, or if this was a homicide. Either way, a life was lost here. Do you think it's extra meaningful to the jury that we have this young man coming in and clearly being very supportive of Dad?
Yeah, Julie, and it's not uncommon. We see that all the time with children. They're put in a very emotional situation. They lost a mother, now they're going to lose a father. So they almost have to, they're going to have what we all have, confirmation bias. They're going to have to take a side in one regard. So, yeah, of course I think it's powerful. If all the children are going to come up and testify and dispute, look, he was just a guy who was unhappy. Again, greed, lust, all of these other things don't necessarily add up to intentional murder, premeditated intentional murder. Why he's not cop, maybe a plea of manslaughter. But yeah, I don't think this is a open and shut case at all.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We were talking in our newsroom. We think this case could go either way. It's really one where I wouldn't be surprised with either outcome. Lieutenant Mike Gould, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks so much. And before we go to break, of course, we want to put the focus on the victim. We want to remember 49-year-old Marcy West. We wish we knew more about Marcy. We have tried to dig. There's very little we can find on social media about her. We couldn't even find an obituary. And for that, we feel so sad. We knew that she was young, had a lot of life ahead of her. She is a beloved mother, and we know that she is missed, and we hope that her family will speak out and tell us more about her. We would love to hear those stories. We'll be right back.